The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I did want to let everyone know before we get started and before we hand it off to Brian Barry to talk about all the great content that he's got ready for us. This session is being recorded, and we will be sending the recording out to all registrants, so no need to worry if you miss something or if you want to rewatch later or have someone else look at it. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box at any time. There's a question section here, or you can put them in the chat if you would like. If you're having any audio or connection issues, try refreshing your browser, exiting, rejoining. Sometimes that does the trick. All right, without any further ado, Brian, take it away.
Great, thanks, Woody. Appreciate everyone joining us. Today, we're just doing our continuing of our ScanForce educational webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about receiving in the warehouse. And we're going to talk about, the basics and the add-ons and all the bells and whistles. Before we get rolling, just real quick, my name is Brian Barry. I know many of you, we have some of our valued Sage reseller partners. We also have some end users on the line. Some of you are already customers of ScanForce looking to get better and add more to your solution. And other of you are prospective and looking at ScanForce perhaps for the very first time. So just so you know who you're talking to, I head up the 100 team here at ScanForce, and I would be the person that you would have a one-on-one conversation with if you do have interest in pursuing anything that you hear today. Personally, I've been in the larger barcoding world known as the automatic identification, or for short, auto ID industry, but in this world for about 25 years. So I'm certainly well versed in all the software and the hardware, scanners, printers, any questions that you may have. I'm your guy and I'm here for it, so please bring all those questions to us. So real quick agenda on what we're going to be talking about today. Number one, I'm going to do barcoding 101. The reason is because you would be surprised if I told you how often my phone rings and someone says, hey, I'm planning on doing this, and I'm going to have a barcode that does that. And I have to say, whoa, wait a minute, time out. Barcodes don't really work that way. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding the barcodes and some mystique, some misconceptions about what it can and what it can't do. Some of you may have scanned barcodes for 20 years at your other job. Others of you have never scanned a barcode other than maybe the checkout, auto checkout line at Target or something of that nature. So today we're going to level the playing field. I'm going to do a little bit of history on barcodes, explain kind of what they do, demystify them a little bit, and how they fit into the Sage 100 world. So that way everybody is on the same page, okay? And you can really amaze your friends. After that, real brief overview as to who we are at ScanForce. Again, like I said, to many of you, we're a known entity, but for those of you who are joining for the first time, I'll give you a real quick brief overview. Then we're going to talk about base ScanForce receiving. What does it do right out of the box? Then we'll get into some enhancements for receiving, some ways that you can add efficiencies or increase the accuracy based on the uniqueness of your operation, okay? After that, we're going to do what I call what's hot right now. This, to me, is benchmarking. I think benchmarking is crucially important for any business. Everybody here is Sage 100 focused. Everybody has a warehouse. Everybody brings stuff in, you move stuff around, you ship stuff out. We're all kind of in the same boat. So you should be interested in what other Sage 100 users with warehouses are interested in. So I'm going to show you a few of the things that are of interest, the things that people talk to me about all day, every day, when it comes to operating a warehouse in a Sage 100 environment. That will allow you to sort of benchmark your operation against what everybody else in the Sage 100 world is doing. And finally, we'll do some Q&A. So as Woody said, please do put your questions in the chat as we go, and we'll field all of those. If we don't get to all of them live today, I promise we'll follow up with you individually, okay? Now, the fun part of the presentation. I promise this isn't going to be your normal, boring guy ranting about a bunch of PowerPoint slides. This is going to be interactive. I'd like for all of you to take your phone out. Normally, this is the part of the presentation where they tell you to put your phone away and silence it and just pay attention to what I have to say. Actually, you are going to be an active participant today. Take your phone out, open your camera app. Now, you don't actually have to take a picture, but if you open your camera app and hold it up to this barcode, we're a barcoding company after all, of course we use barcodes, it's going to give you a link on your phone. it's going to link your phone to my presentation. And I'm going to pop up questions, poll questions, and let you answer them. Now, I promise this is completely 100% anonymous. I will not even know who said what. All we're going to see on the screen is 40% of the people said this and 20% of the people responded that way, that sort of thing. No one will see what you put up there, I promise. There's no tracking here, okay? Not even I, behind the scenes, will even know who said what, okay? Now, if you're having trouble getting connected or if you get disconnected at any point in time, by the way, once you get connected, it's just going to say no active polls. If you have that, then you're in the right place. As soon as I pop a question up, it'll show instantly on your phone. But if you do have any trouble along the way, this same joining barcode will be on the top left-hand corner of all the poll question screens so you can rejoin, okay? And again, this is, again, going to help you benchmark. You're going to answer how you think the world is or what the right answer is, and you'll get to see what everybody else thinks too, okay? All right, so let's move on. Let's start our barcoding 101. I want to get you on the way to your bachelor's degree in barcoding. The very first question, a little bit of history of barcodes. When do you think barcodes were first created? Some of you may have heard the story of when the first scan was, but just go ahead and pop in an answer on your phone. You should have those poll questions there. See, some people are starting to get their answers in. Appreciate that. All right, some answers are starting to pop in. I'll give you just another second in the interest of time. We're going to move on in just a moment. So some of you can keep your answers coming in, but let's see what people are saying thus far, okay? 1974 seems to be the most folks. 4 of you, I appreciate the patriotism on the 1776, but incorrect. So 1974, more than half of you seem to think that that's the right answer. Well, let's go look and see. When were barcodes first created? Well, the first item scanned with a barcode was a pack of Wrigley's gum, 1974. So 58% of you said that. Now, like I said, a lot of you have heard this story, okay? So those 58% of you probably feeling pretty good about yourself right now. However, the question was not when was the first retail item scanned. It was when were barcodes first created. Congratulations to the select few of you that said 1948. That's when they were first created. That's when the concept really came to fruition. And actually, these guys at Drexel that invented these things, they received a patent for it way back in 1952, 20 years earlier than that Wrigley's gum was scanned. And in fact, here's an image from the patent showing you what was known then as the bullseye barcode, okay? This is sort of the Betamax of barcodes, if you will. Remember back in the 80s, the Betamax versus VHS wars, the VHS concept that won out. Same thing happened here. This particular format of a barcode, while it was the first one that the patent was based on, it's not the one that really went out there to the world. Everybody knows if you go in the grocery store and you buy a box of cereal, it's got that picket fence looking barcode on there, UPC, Universal Product Code. That picket fence or vertical barcode, that's sort of the VHS of barcodes. That won out over this. The reason, think about the printing technology that existed back in the 1950s and 60s. Not quite as good as it is today. So as the paper was rolling through the printer, trying to get all those smooth curves on this barcode, that was a tall order, okay? So that's why the straight lines of the one-dimensional or picket fence style barcode on consumer goods today, that's why that won out over this one. But this one was, in fact, the first one, okay? So we already know there's at least 2 different kinds of barcodes. There's the barcode that we see on boxes of cereal, and there's this bullseye barcode. How many barcode symbologies do you think there are? And before you answer that question, you may be thinking, what the heck is a symbology? Well, I'll tell you. A symbology is just the language of a barcode. We humans, we read and write and speak in English or French or Spanish or German or whatever. Barcodes have languages too. We call them symbologies. Take a guess. How many different languages or symbologies do you think that there are out there? And this is kind of important because just think, does my barcode symbology match up with my vendor or my customer? Is that important to me? Let's take a look and see what people are saying. 117, 1330. The answer still coming. 117 seems to be the general consensus, and I love that you're going high because that's how much you think of the barcoding world. But in actuality, 30 is the right answer. So congratulations. Somebody's cheating. They're putting their answer in after I said it. That's okay. So again, we don't know who you are, so you'll just have to live with yourself. We can't chastise you personally. But 30 is the right answer. There's about 30 different languages. And like I said, I have had people say to me, oh, Brian, this whole barcoding, this thing, it's just not going to work for me. I said, well, why? You loved everything we talked about. It answered all your problems. They said, well, my IT guy says that our barcodes are code 39, but our vendors are code 128, and our customers, they use something different that I can't even remember. So it's just not compatible. Well, here's why that doesn't matter. Every barcode scanner made has embedded in it a computer chip, and it has what's called a decode algorithm. Basically, that just means it's sort of the, like if you're a Star Trek fan, it's the universal translator, okay? It can read all the different languages or symbologies of the barcodes, okay? So it doesn't matter what symbology or language you, your vendor, your customer use, the barcode scanners can read all of them. So it's completely irrelevant, doesn't matter who uses what, okay? Now, let's talk about more specifically your operation. So for those of you that are end users, or for those of you that are reseller partners and thinking about your end users, do you use lots and or serial numbers in your operation? Some of the answers are starting to flow in. Let's just see what people are saying. Oh, pretty big percentage on the yeses there. That's actually a little higher than a lot of these conversations that I have with people. So for you, barcodes are infinitely more important, because if you're doing this on paper today, they have to write down those lot numbers, and they have to turn that paper into somebody in the office. And that person, they're saying, boy, I sure hope they wrote it down right. And then you're thinking, well, I sure hope they're reading the chicken scratch handwriting correctly. And I sure hope they keyed it in right. So writing it down, reading it, keying it, there's at least 3 error points right there. If you have lot numbers, you have errors, because we're all human, okay? So barcodes, they don't make errors. When you scan the barcode, it's instantly giving you the exact lot number, and it's going to flow directly into Sage. The 2-dimensional barcode, like the QR code that you see on your screen today, I can encode both the item code and your lot number in one barcode, and an expiration date and anything else that you want to track. Okay? And so every time you touch that barcode downstream, whether it's a physical count or you're shipping or you're pulling it into a production, a bill of materials or production management or whatever you're doing, we're going to capture that lot number instantly. And it's instantly in Sage. And there's no time lag. There's no handing off of paper, and there's no errors. And that's just on the lot number side. For those of you folks that have to deal with serial numbers, it's order of magnitude more complex, because instead of writing down one lot number, you may have to write down 20 serial numbers. That's 20 more times somebody could screw it up, okay? Times reading the chicken scratch handwriting, times rekeying it into Sage. Wouldn't you rather just go beep, 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 beep with a barcode scanner and have it 100% faith that it's all accurate? Well, that's what the 2D barcodes can do for us here, okay? So you may be curious, how many digits can a 2D barcode hold? Because we think, well, I've got kind of long item codes. I've got the extended lot serial field enhancement in Sage. I've got these really long. About how many digits do you think a 2D barcode can hold? Go ahead and pop an answer in there, and let's see what everybody is thinking. Answers still flowing in fast and furious. Okay, the actual answer, a little over 7,000. Okay, so a 2D barcode can hold over 7,000 characters or digits. So we can certainly hold your item code and your lot number. If you have a different vendor lot number, if you have an expiration date, whatever it is, there ain't 7,000 of them. So we can definitely hold that in one barcode. We can print it at receiving, and then every time your people touch that item downstream, we're going to instantly capture all the requisite data, okay? Think about how many times somebody in the office has to get on the radio and say, hey, Joe, you forgot to write down the lot number or the serial numbers. And now Joe has to go back and recreate something that he did 2 or 3 hours ago. Okay? How much time do your people waste doing that? All that goes away with one simple little beep on the barcode. It's instantaneously in Sage, okay? All right, so people are still cheating. People are still entering answers long after we've given it. That's okay. That's okay. As long as you're participating, I'm glad. All right, so that's a little bit of education on barcodes in general, some of the things they can do and can't do, and some of the use cases that are out there. So you've learned a little bit about barcoding. Congratulations, you all graduate with a bachelor in barcoding. So you've learned a little bit about barcodes. Let's learn a little bit about our company, ScanForce. So promise I'm not going to read this slide like Woody told you. We're going to give this to you. And if you want to go back and look at this and read it in depth and study it, you certainly can. The takeaways here is we've been around for a long time, well over 20 years, okay? We actually grew out of Sage 100. It was a 100 client that said, hey, I want to scan barcodes. How do I do that? Something was written for them. It's grown over time. And now here we are with over 10,000 users on the ScanForce platform, okay? And Sage continues to come to us and say, hey, we love what you're doing for 100. Could you do it also for this other Sage product? So we continue to expand our presence in the Sage world, okay? Now, let's focus more specifically on what we do inside Sage 100. Number one, WMS. It stands for Warehouse Management System. That's what we're all here to talk about today. This is your prototypical barcoding stuff. We have 3 different versions called Core, Select, and Premier. They have different levels of features and functions available in them, okay? We can always do label printing because the vast majority of you need to print labels as things arrive because they may come from a bunch of different sources. Occasionally we have the one company that says, hey, I import tile from Italy and my parent company over there, they label everything. I don't need to print anything. Well, bully for you. The rest of us, we're going to print labels on demand. And we can do it at receipt of goods, manufacturing, shipping. There's a lot of different places, okay? But certainly during the receiving process, okay? Now, we certainly do manufacturing as well. We're not going to talk too much about that today, but if you're doing bill of materials or production management, we have a plugin on the handheld that allows you to collect all that data, including PM labor, right there on the handheld. This make to order is kind of cool. It allows you to, when you enter a sales order for something that needs to be made, it can automatically create the work ticket for you in production management. It cuts out one step every time. And I always kind of say, don't tell anybody at Sage, but we still support work order, okay? Don't tell anybody, we might get in trouble for that. All right, mobile sales is the last thing that I'll touch on very briefly. Completely separate product from the warehouse management system. Mobile sales, if you have people that go out in the field and visit with customers and want to create quotes or orders on a tablet or phone, we can do that. And all the customer history and the pricing levels and the inventory quantities, it's all available to them at their fingertips, completely disconnected from Sage. So if you have a will call counter, and you want to walk around and take orders with people, or if you go to a trade show and you want to take orders, this is a great tool. Talk to me about that. But right now, let's keep going and talking about receiving, okay? Last thing I'll mention here on ScanForce, the speed of our solution, just the way the architecture is developed. We loaded up 1 million records and said, go find this one discrete piece of data, and it returned it in less than 0.03 seconds, which even in computer terms is really, really fast. It's also very intuitive. I'm going to show you progressions of screens today, and you're going to see just how intuitive it is. We're not asking your people to relearn how to do receiving. We're just going to say, do it on the scanner instead of writing it down on paper. You may find it's actually easier and faster with us on the screens, okay? And our support, second to none. I strongly encourage you, talk to whoever your Sage reseller is, ask them their opinion on our support, and I'm sure they'll fill you in. Okay. Enough about that. Let's get on to what you really came to see. Let's talk about ScanForce receiving. Now, I'm going to show you a progression of screens on the normal base ScanForce receiving. This is what it looks like right out of the box. No enhancements, no customization, no extra cost. This is right out of the box, okay? The first thing you're going to be asked for is, what's the PO number? Pretty clean screen. What's the PO number? Okay, you can scan that. You can search if you hit the little magnifying glass, you can type it in, but when we enter, you're going to get into the right PO. And then we can display a list of everything on that PO. You can see I've got item code 1901, that's an orange widget. And how many have I received thus far versus how many I've ordered? Well, I haven't touched this one yet, so I've received 0 of 18 that were ordered, so obviously I have a balance due of 18, okay? The next thing that's going to pop up, it's going to ask you, once you identify the item that you're receiving, is the quantity. I tapped on the very first item, the orange widget, item 1901, and it says I'm supposed to receive 18, and I did. And now if I want to, need to, I can print a label. So it's really just this fast. Once you tell us what the PO number is that you're going to receive, you identify the item, verify the quantity. Do you need a label? And you move on. Lather, rinse, repeat. It's really that simple. Okay. And remember, this can be a barcode scan. If you already have a label, you can scan it. Even if you have the vendor's barcode on the item. You know, Sage 100 has that alias field where you can tie what you call an item code to what your vendor calls it. You can scan their barcode. It'll instantly recognize it as your item. Okay. So this is a very fast, very simple flow. And again, because we grew out of Sage 100, all of this is Sage 100 terminology. We're not throwing anything new at you. This is not a generic WMS that's bolted on from the larger world. This is truly an extension of Sage 100. All the terminology, the flow is exactly what you would expect if Sage had written this themselves. Okay. Now, again, this is the base product. This is if I'm receiving one PO at a time, vendor sends me a truck, I unload it, or I open up a box or what have you. This is what it looks like right out of the box. Okay. But sometimes you may have special needs, and that's really what you came here today to talk about, the uniqueness of some of our receiving applications. So we have enhancements that will allow you to tweak the process and add some efficiency. Now we have a lot more enhancements than just receiving. So another poll question here is, take a guess about how many enhancements do you think we have to offer? 12, 44, 68, 97. This is sort of an a la carte menu off to the side. And I don't really expect you to know the answer. I'm just curious to see how many you think we might have, okay? And this ranges across receiving, shipping, physical count, the way that we handle orders, all the manufacturing stuff. All of this factors into enhancements, things that you can add to the base product, okay? And the 68s have it. That is the correct answer. Congratulations. Stop typing in 44 and 97. The 68s have it. There you go. That's what I expect to see. Everybody's cheating. So if you haven't learned, just wait till I give you the answer and then put it in. So yes, 68 is the correct answer, okay? All right, let's move on and talk about some of these enhancements specifically related to receiving. The first one we call wave receiving. Now, to us, a wave is just a group of orders. We have wave picking and shipping. We also have this wave receiving. It's a way to group orders together. Let's say that a vendor says, hey, I've got these 5 POs, 10 POs for you, whatever. I'm building a truckload and I'm going to send them all to you. Okay. Well, you could receive one PO at a time, but what if the first thing you take off is on PO number 1, the second box you take off is from PO number 4? You don't want to have to get in and out of individual transactions like that. That would be a pain. What if we could just group all those POs together and receive them simultaneously? Okay, so I group those 5 or 10 or however many POs together on a wave, and now I can see all of the items across all those orders and check them in no matter what order they come out the truck in. Okay, here's the way that's going to look on the handheld. Okay, so instead of asking for a PO number like I showed you on the previous screen, I'm asking for a wave number. I created wave number 1 in my demo system as an example for us. Now you could also hit the search button and see a list of the waves that were out there. Okay, and next it's going to say, okay, what's the first item? See, I'm in wave number 1, and I can scan the first barcode that I see on a box. Doesn't really matter what it is. Okay, and it's going to say, hey, item 1901. That exists 3 times on this wave. 1 on PO number 10034, on 10035, and on 10036. So this item existed on 3 of those purchase orders that I added to my wave. So if I unload this box, I can say, let's see, how many are in this box? 25. So I can say, okay, it's this one. I can apply it towards this PO. Okay, or maybe I've got all of them together and I add them up and say 50, 11, 25, so about 86 if my public school math is okay. So that's 86 of them. So I check them all in. But now here's the big efficiency. If we were doing this one PO at a time, they'd receive 50 and they'd go put it away. And then a little later, they'd go and receive 11 and they'd go put it away a second time, and then a third time. 3 times they'd have to visit the shelf where these items live. If I'm doing it with a wave, I can receive them all at one time, and I can do one collective put away. You'll hear me say this many times if you're on the phone with me. Footsteps cost money. ScanForce saves you footsteps. Okay, so if I can do one collective put away instead of 3 discrete putaways, that's saving footsteps, that's saving money, it's making everybody more efficient. Okay, that's the big gain here, is gaining efficiency by grouping them together. Okay, so wave receiving is one of these enhancements that we're going to talk about today. Here's another one. It's very similar but slightly different, in that it's container receiving. So if you receive containers from overseas, okay, you get probably an advanced shipping notice weeks ahead of time, so you know what's coming in. So what we allow you to do is pre-receive those items into a virtual warehouse in Sage, and you could call it on the water, or whatever name you wanted to use for it. So what happens is you pre-receive based on the advanced shipping notice. So they've been received in Sage. They're just showing, instead of in my 000 warehouse, for instance, they're in this in transit or on the water warehouse. So when the container actually comes, we've already received it, but we're going to ask the users to just check everything in and make sure it's a match. And if it does, then we're going to move it behind the scenes. I say we, meaning ScanForce. We're going to move that stuff from the in transit on the water warehouse into your actual production warehouse, like your 000 warehouse, for instance. Okay, so we can do one PO on the container, or it can be multiple POs on the container and receive them all simultaneously. And here's the way that's going to look. Okay, instead of asking for a purchase order number or a wave number like we saw a moment ago, it's going to ask for a container number. Now, this is a field that we add to the PO header file. Container number. That way, if you have multiple POs on one container, you can tie them all together, much like what we just did with the wave a moment ago. And all the same efficiencies would then apply. Okay. It's going to ask me, I'm going to move that from the in-transit warehouse, or you can call this on the water, whatever you want, and then you can select what warehouse that needs to go into. In this case, my 000 warehouse. And then, just like we saw before, it's going to give me a list of all the items, and I can select the items, and the quantities. And from here, the screens look identical to the ones that we've already seen, so I won't bore you with all of that detail again. But the point is, you can receive one PO at a time, you can receive multiple POs at a time, or you can receive an entire container load at a time. So you have the base functionality, or these two enhancements that can help you expedite receiving multiple things at one time, okay? Whether it's container or whether we just call it a wave. So maybe you get multiple boxes or multiple, one truckload with multiple POs. So one way or the other, we have a way to make your receiving more efficient. And this is where that discovery call comes in. The very first thing that needs to happen, if any of this is of interest to you, is we need to get on the phone and have a one-on-one and talk about exactly the way you do things, and I will help recommend the various components of ScanForce that would apply best in your world, okay? Now, another thing to consider, we're very familiar with doing phased implementations. And by that I mean, you may start with the base receiving. And then a few months in, you may say, hey, you know what, this is working great, let's add the container piece now, okay? That's perfectly all right. This stuff is very modular, these enhancements. They can be bolted on at any point in time. We have customers that have been with us for 10 years that call up and say, hey, do you have a way to do this? We say, oh, we sure do. We just released that last year. They say, oh, I didn't know that existed. I want that. So we just add it to their system that they've been using successfully for 10 years. So you could certainly do this at whatever pace that you would like, okay? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, a little different than purchase order receiving, let's talk about RMA receiving. Sage has an enhancement themselves called RMA, or Return Merchandise Authorization. Okay, so this customer calls you up and they say, hey, this modem that you sent me is busted. It won't work. I want to return it. They say, okay, no problem. You go into RMA and Sage. You create a transaction much like you would create a PO to receive against. In this case, we create an RMA. Pardon my cough. So we have this transaction, this RMA that exists in Sage. So now I can see that on the scanner. Now, if your receiving clerks look like this poor lady right over here, then maybe this is a good idea for you. Look at all the boxes. How in the world am I going to keep all this stuff straight and make sure everything gets returned properly? Doing it on paper, a piece of paper gets lost, somebody types the wrong thing. It's really easy to screw it up because we're humans and this is what we do. okay? But look how happy this guy appears with the scanner. He just goes beep, and it says, yeah, Brian, you received the right one. Congratulations, gold star for you, okay? You can ensure that the items are all returned correctly. It's the right thing. You can even flag things that have gone outside their warranty. If you have a lot numbers or serial numbers, we can bring those in as well. This is what it's going to look like, okay? The first thing you can do is go into the RMA application, and it will show you all the RMAs that are out there. And here's I've got one for American Business Futures. It's RMA number 13, okay? And once I select that one, it's going to say, well, there's this Wi-Fi modem router thingamabob that the customer said wasn't working and they wanted to return. So I visually inspect the item and say, yep, looks like a Wi-Fi modem router to me. And now you've got this action code. Now you get to determine what these codes are. Here's a few options. I'm just going to return it to stock. Looks good to me, nothing really wrong with it. Maybe they bought too many, whatever. We're just going to return it to stock. Or maybe it got damaged in shipping. We're just going to scrap it. There's nothing that can be done. Or maybe it can go to repair and get refurbished, and then it can go back into stock. So you have access to these action codes right here, okay? And if there's a serial number or lot number, in this case, it's a piece of electronics, it's going to have a serial number, it's going to automatically request that. Because of our tight integration with Sage, we're reading directly from item maintenance, item master file. So we know this is a serialized item. It's going to automatically require a serial number. It won't let them go past that, okay? And remember those 2D barcodes we talked about earlier? If the serial number was embedded in there, as soon as they scanned the barcode for the item code, it would have automatically collected that serial data. It would be sitting there waiting on me, okay? All right, moving on. No matter how you're doing your receiving, you may need to print a label, okay? We talked a little bit about this up front. So we could do on-demand label printing at receiving. We could also do it at manufacturing. So if something is a finished good and you want a label on it before it sits on the shelf, or if it's a subcomponent and you want to label it as a subassembly before it goes into the next step, so it can be scanned as a component in the next step in the process, we can do all of that. You can also do it at shipping. Some of our customers have very unique labels designed specifically for the ultimate customer. And so when they pick an item, they can print a label for it, and maybe it has your customer's logo on it, and it's laid out exactly like they want it. How cool would that be if you offered your customer a product labeled exactly how they want it, so now they don't have to do the label on that end? That's a value add for you. It's a feather in your cap to your customer. Not everybody can do that, but with ScanForce, you can. Okay. You can also select from multiple designs. You can just do a quick drop down on that label screen that I showed you earlier where I had like 18 units on there. And you can say, I want this label or that label, because you may have some products that are pretty big and a 4x6 label will fit perfectly. But you may have some small products and you have to go with a 2x2 label just because you don't have enough real estate to put a bigger sticker on there. So you could put that kind of thing in there. The 2D barcodes we talked about at length. We can encode multiple data elements. Okay. And ScanForce will remember what's important to you. If this is an item and you receive 18 of them and every one is in a box unto itself and you want one label for every box, well, ScanForce is going to print you 18 labels because it's going to mirror the number that you say you're receiving. One label for every unit that you're receiving. But you may have some items that may be what I call nuts and bolts type items. Well, you don't want to put a barcode on every nut and every bolt that's in the system, right? You just want one for the outside of the box. In that case, ScanForce remembers when you're receiving screws or nuts or bolts, it's just going to default to one. We have some customers that everything they do is pallet-based. So they have it always default to 4 labels. That way, they can put one on all 4 sides of the pallet, so no matter how it's oriented, a forklift driver can squeal up beside it and go beep and scan it without having to move and reorient the label, okay? Let's move on to talk about another topic, supplemental tracking. So just the name supplemental tracking means more than normal, right? So, in Sage, you can set an item valuation as a lotted item or a serial number item or serialized item, and it will require that entry on the scanner. That's something that we've always done. But what if you have a lotted item, but you also want to track the individual serial numbers within that lotted item? Sage doesn't do that. It would probably blow up if you try. Or the reverse, you want to track a lot number for something that is set as a serialized valuation. Or maybe you want to track, you have a serialized item, but you also want to track a lot and expiration date. So see, there's all these different combinations that we can now put together through supplemental tracking that Sage could never do before. Okay, and you may have your head spinning and you go, why in the world would you want to track serial numbers for a allotted item? Aren't they one or the other? Well, here's some use cases. Okay, let's say you're tracking medicine. You have individual vials. But when the drug company made that individual vial, it was part of a batch. The batch is equivalent to a lot. So in Sage, it's a lotted item. You track the lot that they sent you. You have 50 vials in one lot. But you want to know which individual lot goes out to which customer. Well, that's just something you couldn't do in the past, but now with ScanForce Supplemental Tracking, we can. We can track serial numbers of every vial within a lotted item. There are some governmental regulations coming down the pipeline with medication and drug suspension that are going to require this sort of thing. That's one of the reasons that we wrote this supplemental tracking thing, okay? Maybe you just want to track some level, lot or serial, but you don't want to keep up with it in Sage. So you want to keep it as an average cost or a standard cost type item. That's okay. We can track the lot number off the side in ScanForce, and it's never really in Sage. If you don't want to change the valuation method, you don't have to. I know a lot of our Sage business partners are probably thinking, aha, I have a customer that's been talking about doing lots for a long time, but they don't want to do the hassle of changing the valuation method. Now they don't have to. We add this one little enhancement, bada boom, bada bing, we can track all that stuff. Now, it's available to you at both receiving and at shipping. It's configurable at the item level. So one item can be one way, another item can be completely different, okay? And the history of all this, completely 100% searchable from the ScanForce Management Console, like our dashboard, if you will. You can go in there and you can type in a serial number, boom, it'll show you the sales order number, the lot number. You show you the person who picked it, how many seconds it took them to pick it, what was the sales order number, who was the vendor. It's all available to you right there within the ScanForce Management Console, okay? So that's a lot to chew on, that supplemental tracking thing. It's not going to apply to everybody, I know, but for those of you that it does apply to, somebody out there, there's a big old light bulb going off over your head right now, and you're thinking, I need to get on the phone with this guy and figure out if this is going to work for me. I look forward to that phone call, okay? Another topic, image capture. I love this one. You ever opened a back end of a truck or container, and it looks like this mess right up here, and you're thinking, how many of these things are going to have to file a claim on? Or maybe your delivery driver walks up with this look on his face and you're thinking, you know, okay, King of Queens, sure, wasn't your fault. I get you, okay? It's happened to all of us. You receive something in, it's busted all the crap, and you just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to file a claim for this. And you're thinking, where's the digital camera? Let me go get it. Let me take a picture. Now I got to take the card out. I got to go put it in a computer. Somebody's using it. I got to wait. Now I got to save it and give it a name, and I got to make sure that the name is something I can find later. Now I got to email it to somebody. That's a pain. It's a huge hassle. We've simplified all of that because the scanners that you're using to scan all the normal stuff in ScanForce have cameras built into them. I can just take a picture like what you're seeing right here. It just says take photo, boom. This is during PO receiving. I know this is kind of small, but I promise you that says PO receiving and take photo. And you can see this box is all busted up. So we can take a picture of this, take a picture of Mr. King of Queens over here with the busted box. We can take a picture when we open the door. We can have all these images saved. We can also digitize documents. If you have a bill of lading, a packing list, whatever that is, you can take pictures of these paper and not have to keep up with them, not have to file them. You can just can them because we're going to create a folder in Sage for you where you can save all this stuff. And the name of the picture file is going to be the purchase order number -010203, that sort of thing. So you take multiple pictures and they're recallable at any time, a day, a week, a month, a year later. So it's really easy to file a claim if you need to. And if you have Instadocs, this integrates perfectly. It's just going to be a thumbnail on the folder within the PO header file. Okay? All right, that's a really brief, quick overview of some of the enhancements that we have that can help you upgrade your receiving game, okay? Now, what I'd like to do is move on with the time that we have left and talk a little bit about what's hot right now. This is the benchmarking that I promised you in the beginning. what are other Sage 100 warehouse users trying to do in their warehouse to make their life better, more accurate, faster, more efficient? Maybe I should be interested in the same thing. Okay, some of this may be something you've thought about for years, others may be something you didn't even know was possible. But let's dive in and take a look. The first is license plating. Now, we use this generic term license plating. Most of you will think of this as pallet tracking because that's the quantity of things, how things move in a lot of warehouses, okay? So if you have pallet jacks, if you have side loaders, or if you have forklifts, any of these types of things in your warehouse, we should probably talk about pallet tracking or license plating. Now, we generically call it license plating because not everybody ships in pallets. Some people ship in crates or gaylords, if you've ever heard of that, just a giant box. So there's all these different units of measure that people store inventory in, move it around, and ship it in, okay? So imagine this. You're loading up a pallet and you're tracking lot numbers or serial numbers, expiration date, and you put all this different stuff on there, and then you shrink wrap it and you set it aside. And a day, a week goes by, maybe a month. And then the customer says, I'm ready for that, but make sure it includes this. And you think, I don't remember what's in that shrink wrap. You're gonna have to cut that open and disassemble it and bring it on. No, you don't have to do that. Because with ScanForce license plating or pallet tracking, inside Sage, we can show you this pallet number and everything that's on it, including the lot numbers and the serial numbers and the expiration dates if you need that data. It's all defined. So now I've defined everything on this pallet by one barcode, the license plate. So if I want to move it from point A to point B, one barcode scan. If I want to ship it, one barcode scan, and everything on it ships. This is touch it once instead of touch it 100 times. You build the pallet one time, you define what's on it, and then whenever you get ready to ship it, beep, scan the license plate, everything goes out the door. Okay, so license plating, huge efficiency gains for those of you that are in that world. Let's talk about it if you have these types of devices. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is order assignment. You know, people often ask, how, if I have these scanners, how am I going to tell people what orders to go pick? Well, a lot of people will simply just print the pick ticket they printed all along. But we put a barcode at the top of it for the sales order number, so they just scan it instantly into the right transaction. You could still do that. Doesn't cost you anything but a ream of paper. Okay, or we have this enhancement called order assignment. So on our management console, our dashboard, you have you can see all of your pickers, and you can sort your orders, what needs to ship today, and then you can sort of drag and drop. It's very visual, and you can assign orders to individuals. And if you have one big one and 5 small ones, maybe that's the same amount of time. So you assign the one big one to picker A and the 5 small ones to picker B, and you've balanced the workload. Okay? You can also prioritize. If you have somebody coming to pick something up, it needs to be the first thing that's picked, you just drag it to the top of the list. And so the user signs into their handheld, they go into their list, they see their to-do list for the day, and this is the first one I've got to go pick right now. And it allows you to go completely paperless, save a few trees, okay? Starship integration. Anybody that has Starship, this is an absolute no-brainer, okay? Because if you have Starship, which is a third-party solution for printing shipping labels in the Sage world, you have to go and log into a PC in a Starship and enter your order and navigate through and request your labels. But if you're scanning things into box 1, box 2, and box 3 through ScanForce's hand scanners, we can ping Starship behind the scenes and say, here's all the data, I'm ready for my labels, and they just magically start printing. Your users won't even know Starship is part of the mix, because we're handling the communications behind the scenes. So it just automatically sends that print job, and the labels print out as soon as they start scanning things into boxes. It's really slick. I would love to talk to you about that if you use Starship or if you're just interested in it, okay? Last one we're going to talk about is a little bit on the manufacturing side. No, not everybody's into manufacturing, but production management is one of the #1 enhancements that we provide to our customers. It's a huge growing segment of the Sage 100 population. You could do material issues for all your raw materials. You could do completions, tell us what you made. You could print labels. You can enter your labor. There's a couple different ways to enter labor. But we also have enhancements. I mentioned this make to order one very early on. That's where we watch you enter a sales order. and then we can automatically go and we can create that work ticket. A work ticket is just a document, the output from production management. So it creates this PM work ticket for you. It removes one step from the process every single time. So if you're a make-to-order shop instead of a make-to-stock operation, that's a really important one, okay? This next one, though, this one is huge. It's called work ticket material management. Now, what this means is, for the first time ever, you have the ability to reserve component inventory against a work ticket. So when a work ticket is entered, whether you enter it manually or you let our make to order enter it for you, the system will run through logic that we call auto allocation based on business rules, and it will go and reserve specific stock for a work ticket. That way, when you're looking at your inventory, you can say, oh, I've got 100, but 78 of them are reserved on work tickets, so I don't have nearly as much as I thought I did. I need to get a new PO working, okay? And these business rules, things like, let's use the oldest stuff first, FIFO, or maybe the first expire needs to be used first. So this material management can really, really help you get your hands around your inventory if you're in the manufacturing sector. Okay, labor dilution is a cool one. If you have workers that sign in to multiple jobs at the same time, let's say they chalk into 3 jobs and they do that for an hour. Well, it's going to look like they did an hour on job 1, an hour on job 2, hour on job 3. They worked for 3 hours in 1 hour's worth of time on the clock. That's a pretty good job. But we know that's not true. So labor dilution, what it would do is it would automatically dilute that labor and assign 20 minutes to each of those jobs to make it more realistic. Okay, punch clock, step status, work tickets by SO. There's multiple others. I'm not going to go through all of them piece by piece today because today was really more about receiving, not manufacturing. But if you have interest, I would love to show this to you. Okay, now, no matter what version, what edition of Core Select Premier of our WMS you have, no matter if you need no enhancements or you need 10 enhancements, at some point in time, you're going to need to call ScanForce for support. Hey, why does this look like this? What happened to this? Why is my report printing like that? You're going to need to reach out from us occasionally, okay? That's a big part of this. You're not just buying the software, you're buying a relationship into our organization because we're going to be supporting you for years and years down the line, okay? So here's the last poll question that I have for you. What do you think is the average response time when you contact ScanForce support? Okay, whether it's an email, a phone call, leave a message, whatever it is, what do you think is the average response time for our support team? I know a lot of you may have set your phone down because we haven't had a poll question in a while, but go ahead and pop an answer in there for me. I see some answers starting to come in, so let's see what people are thinking. And the 26 minutes have it. There you go. That is the average response time, 26 minutes. Definitely not 4 hours. 30 seconds, I would love it to get there. We're not quite there yet, okay? But 26 minutes is average. And there was actually a time study that we did over a full year, so a large sample cycle, okay? 26 minutes it is. Now, with our support, be it implementation, be it ongoing, that's really the name of the game over here. We're a service organization that happens to deal in barcodes, okay? And I would tell you, don't take my word for it. Talk to your Sage reseller, whoever your business partner is, and ask them what their experience has been with us, because they've dealt with us many times with their customers. They can give you some firsthand knowledge. The way that our support works, first of all, you have unlimited contact to our help desk. Okay, whether it's emails, phone calls, we're not tracking these. You don't get 10 a month. You get unlimited. Okay, now we also do issue tracking. If you have 4 people from your organization that contact us in the same week about the same issue, we could come back to you and say, hey, look, we have a training issue here. Okay, this isn't a software problem, it's a usability problem. Let's do a little extra training. Let's get everybody up to speed, and that way they won't get bogged down. Okay. Also, product updates. We're constantly adding new things to the software. Every new release, new bells and whistles get added. And when it comes to Sage 100 upgrades, we're always Johnny on the spot with that. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to upgrade to 2025 PU1, but we have this third-party thing and they're not ready for it. We've got to wait 6 months. That doesn't happen in the ScanForce world. First of all, we're a master developer in the Sage world. We get an advanced cut of these things before they hit the general population, so we get our ducks in a row. We normally issue our support for that in about a week's time. Okay. In fact, a couple years ago, I think it might have been the 2023 release, we announced our support in 2 days after it came out. Okay. So that's pretty darn good. So all the bells and whistles, you've seen a lot of those. We've got the software that meets the needs. We've got the support organization to support you ongoing. So your big lingering question is, how much does this thinking thing cost, Brian? I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because we've got Core and Select and Premier, 3 different functional level versions of our software. We have how many enhancements? That's right, 68. You know that now, okay? So everybody's ScanForce looks a little different. It's kind of like walking onto the lot at a car dealership and saying, how much is a car? And they say, well, I've got this used Yugo over here, and I've got an AMG Mercedes. Which one do you want, okay? There's quite a range, and there is with our warehouse management system too. So, if you need 2 scanners or you need 20 scanners, that right there is a big swing in the budget, okay? But in general, this is industry agnostic, okay? This is not Sage, this is barcoding in general. Warehousing systems like this generally pay for themselves in 6 to 18 months, okay? Which is a pretty good ROI, all right? Okay, with the remaining time that we have, I'm going to open things up to questions. You'll see all of our contact info. That info at ScanForce, that comes to the whole team here, okay? Myself, multiple other people. So, if you send an email in, I may be in the middle of a demo, but somebody else can get back to you right away. It's our goal to be just as conscientious and timely as our support people are. They do it in 26 minutes. It's a little bit of a competition. We'd like to beat them. So put us to the test. Give us a call. I'm the only Brian here if you ask for me. If I'm not on the middle of a demo, then I'll be happy to talk to you directly, okay? All right, Woody, do we have some questions from the good folks out there that I can answer?
We do, and if you still want to get one more in before our time is up, just put it in the question section or in the chat. The first one wants to go back to the wave receiving section and kind of go more into details about how you would handle the labeling for the pallets. Would you print one label for 18 pallets or print 18 for each pallet, 18 labels for each pallet? How would you go about the label to pallet process?
That really depends. If we're doing pallet level tracking, if you want to receive at the pallet level, we can do that. There's a setting that turns that on within the system. So you don't have to unwrap the shrink wrap, okay? Now, if your procedure is you unwrap it, you unbox everything to make sure that it's not damaged or whatever, that's fine. You can do that, and we can label individual items and boxes at that time if you want to. But what most people will do is we can on-demand print a pallet label that has a big barcode at the top that says this is pallet number 1001, okay? And then we can even include what we call packing list information down below, so we can list all the items and quantities that are on that pallet. And we stick that on the outside of the shrink wrap, and then you can go and put it away, and then you can move it around very easily with one barcode scan. And then if you ever need to break that pallet, you could take 10 boxes off, and maybe there's 40 still left. So yeah, let's have a one-on-one conversation about that. I'd love to hear your use case, and I can tell you all the bells and whistles.
All right, next question. Do I need any Sage enhancements to do container receiving?
Actually, you do not. So you issue POs to a vendor. They put 1 PO on a container or 10 POs on a container with whatever. It's really just the container receiving enhancement in ScanForce that does that. And then we feed data back to each individual PO once it's received.
All right. Do wave receiving POs have to be from the same vendor?
They do not. So, if you have a shipment coming in, there's multiple vendors that have stuff on that's fine. You can wave them together however you wish. There certainly does not have to be from one vendor. The example that I gave was one vendor building a truckload shipment. So I understand why you might think that, but no, that's not a requirement.
Okay. Can I use ScanForce labeling on my existing printers?
Oh, sure. If you have like a Zebra type printer, Intermec, Datamax, the printers like that, SOTOs, then yes, the printing software will work on your existing equipment. Absolutely. Same with scanners. So if you already have barcode scanners that you may have used for some other application or project in years gone by, as long as they're Android, then yeah, we can still use those.
Do I need Instadocs to use the image capture?
Oh no, so Instadocs is an enhancement that can be added to Sage 100, and there's a bunch of different iterations of it. There's one that's specific to purchasing, and what it does, it just adds a tab on the PO header file. There's the different tabs. If you look at the PO header, there would be one called Instadocs. If you have that, then there's an integration between our two products, and our images flow directly in there, and they show up as thumbnails. But the vast majority of the users that have this image capture from ScanForce do not have Instadocs. So we create a folder for you in Sage, and it's searchable. And so you could go in and type in the PO number, and you would see a list of all the images associated with it, whether it was a packing list, bill of lading, or the damaged images. And the exact same thing exists for the outbound shipping side as well. Because what a lot of people tell me is, I want to take a picture of what my stuff looks like before it leaves my dock. I want to see the pallets or the boxes. I want to see what the truck looks like before we close the door and put the lock on it. And then when it ends up the other side of the country, if it's all beat up, then I can go to the carrier and I can say, this is what it looked like when it left my dock. This is a you problem, not a me problem. And a lot of people have told me that the cost of fighting one claim is more than the cost of the enhancement itself. So it can literally pay for itself in one problem.
Does RMA Receiving allow the generation of license plates / pallet IDs during the return receipt?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that. I've never tried to do that in my test system. So I would love to have a conversation with you, talk about that. And we could see if it doesn't, it could certainly be made to do so, because we have the ability to receive at the pallet level. So I'm sure we could do RMA receiving at the pallet level. I just would have to check and see, what the settings look like. So that's a very good question. I would like to further that conversation.
We got a kind word here about ScanForce has really helped to radically improve processes where I work. We've already implemented it for all processes, and I would like to know about reports between Sage and ScanForce.
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, on our ScanForce Management Console, there's a dashboard tab where you can build visual reporting using widgets, where you could develop bar charts, pie charts, things of that nature. So you could do a lot that way. So my suggestion is just ping an email to support@scanforce.com and just say, I'd like more information about X, Y, and Z. You can get real specific on there. And within average of 26 minutes, somebody should be getting back to you and talking with you about how to do that. And we also have our own YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and search for ScanForce, there's dozens upon dozens of videos. There's one out there, if you scroll down a little bit, that's specific to the management console. I would strongly recommend you check that one out. And there you can kind of see how far we can push the envelope with developing these reporting and these widget views of all of your data.
And looks like the final question will be, is there a specific scanner that you recommend using that runs best with the software?
So there isn't a specific one. We work on any Android type scanner. We can also work on Windows PCs or iOS devices, but we don't recommend you have your iPhone running around the warehouse doing receiving. But we are a Zebra reseller. So if you come to me with a request, I can provide you with a turnkey quotation with all the software, implementation, training, ongoing support, scanners, printers, the whole shoot match, all turnkey. So we recommend Zebra. That's the primary one. So if you'd like to have a conversation about your needs, we can talk about all the different options. Some have keys, some have touch screens. Some have different temperature ranges, so the use case is a little different for everybody.
All right, well, that is all the questions we have today.
Awesome. I think that puts us at exactly 1 hour, right on the button, exactly as we drew it up, Woody. So again, everybody, Brian Berry here from the 100 team at ScanForce. I greatly appreciate your presence and your participation with all of our poll questions. Thank you so much. And I strongly encourage you, reach out to us directly, reach out to your Sage reseller, and I would love to have a one-on-one conversation, talk about your specific needs and how ScanForce can fit in. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.